first episode on film
Goodness me.
in our new studio.
It's all a bit much.
It's all just throwing all sorts of new things,
Yeah.
all at once. It's
The awkward season 3 step.
I have to say, like, I've suddenly become really self-conscious.
I
now
have too.
That, now that it's being filmed.
Kind of like, I find myself, my posture is dramatically increased. Like, oh, I have to have good posture because I'm being filmed. Although you'll see dramatically throughout the podcast, I will slowly dip.
Just
by the end of
slowly.
it, I'll be...
Yeah, slowly sink away onto the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
So welcome to Esoterica HQ, and
Yeah.
this is where producer Caroline has spent a lot of time, as you'll have seen
has.
on the time lapse video on YouTube if you've checked that out.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah, thank you. Doing lots of painting and all those sorts of things. So we kind of have some cool ideas about how the space is going to look.
Yeah. This is just the start.
Yeah, but we're a bit excited to get in here and record our first episode in here and have a bit of fun. Because previously we've just been sort of sitting in a small office, and so it's kind of nice to have some room,
Some room and
some space.
Although I'm not as close to James now. It's not as comforting.
Yeah. I'm no longer so intimately in your ears. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have a chat about now that we're in our new space and that sort of stuff. We've been talking a little bit about this podcast and a little bit about how this podcast is going to look or sound going forward. Now that we've added in things like film and a new studio and all of that sort of stuff. And for us, starting a podcast was something that we'd wanted to do for a long time. And getting it off the ground, we were really focused on getting it off the ground and how we'd go about doing that.
Just finding our feet, really. It was
sort of
how would it work?
Yeah, finding a voice within that sort of, let's face it, very crowded market and all that sort of thing, and where we were at and what we wanted to talk about and that sort of stuff. So we have some really cool ideas going forward in terms of formatting this podcast and how this podcast will sound going forward. We'll still be delivering you content every Monday. It's still going to come out every Monday. But just sort of, I suppose, streamlining the way the whole thing works or the whole thing sounds, especially now that we have film. So we have some ideas, but we thought we'd throw it out to you as well in terms of, you're our audience at the end of the day. So what is it that you have enjoyed listening to on the podcast so far? What are the sorts of things you like to hear or you've liked so far? Or conversely, what are things that you kind of wish we did less of or talked about less? And we'd really be, we're really interested in your feedback. Like we'd love your feedback. Easiest place to get us that feedback is on Twitter, if you're listening to this obviously on like Spotify or somewhere like that. Or leave a comment in the video if you're watching us here live and in Technicolor.
Yeah, and widescreen format.
16
by 9.
This is where I'm going to watch this back, right? And then decide that
I'm not watching it back.
Yeah, and then decide I'm going to need like makeup or something because,
I just went for a swim in the ocean, in the sea. I did. We went to Waipariki and I went for it. The location of Hitman 2. So, it's like, oh wow, that mountain range behind me. That wasn't there before.
I feel like I've been here before.
Eidos have really
stepped up.
done a number on
Yeah. That's right. They literally listened to the podcast and were like, something's got to be done about this.
The reads aren't right.
Yes, the marketing department came out and like created a mountain range and overnight just to make it fit with the game.
Yeah. Built an island.
Yeah. It's actually cheaper to do that than it was to recode the game. Yeah. To put
gaming development's a whole nother level now.
That's right.
It's so expensive.
That's right. So anyway, what I thought we'd like to talk about today, or what we kind of want to talk a little bit about today, is two things. And I'm kind of going to introduce these to Anthony as we go along.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes.
I love now that we can actually do things like you just put up two fingers and it actually
it makes sense.
Someone's going to see it.
Well, you see, because we've had this debate the whole way along, is the producer Caroline, because we do this all the time whenever we talk. We obviously gesticulate and make references to stuff, and producer Caroline has to keep reminding us that no one can actually see us.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool.
It's very odd because I've trained myself not to do that, so I'm feeling very stoic. But I'm used to flailing my arms around and things.
So hang on for lots more flailing as things go along. So we're going to talk about privilege, right? And is the first thing we're going to talk about. And what I love about this is Anthony actually, for the first time of us doing podcasts, actually doesn't really know what we're going to talk about. So this is yeah.
It's going to be an organic reaction.
Yes. So this is either going to go incredibly well or horrifically. Yeah? So the reason I want to talk about privilege, and I know it sounds a little bit sort of strange talking about privilege, here we are, two middle-class white guys in our studio recording our podcast talking about privilege. But I wanted to talk about this because there was an article in stuff.co.nz, and I know how much you love stuff.co.nz. So there was an article that came through on there, and it's an opinion piece. I will say it's an opinion piece, so it may not reflect the views of stuff.co.nz.
Yeah, okay, nice. So Stuff don't have to take responsibility.
Yes, that's right. So And I would like to just say before we sort of go down this track is that this is a reaction to the article itself and not necessarily the heart of the content that's in there.
But we'll get into that.
Yes. Yeah. I just thought I'd let you know because I can see an intake of breath as we go on here. So the first article I'm going to read a little bit from the article, which is why I've got my cell phone here. I'm not such a millennial that I need my cell phone attached to me all the time. So I'm going to read a little bit from the article here, and then we can talk about it, Anthony, and I'll be interested to see what your reaction is.
Okay.
So the title of this article by Alana Schetzer, I think I've pronounced that right. I apologize if I haven't. Is that thin privilege is real, and it's time we acknowledged it. So, in the past few years, the world has finally started to wake up to the socially constructed ways in which some people are given an easier ride through life than others. Male privilege acknowledges how being a man means earning a higher wage than women, not being discriminated against because of their gender, and being far less likely to be sexually assaulted. I think we can agree with that so far.
True. Yeah.
And white privilege recognizes the ongoing discriminations faced by people of color in job opportunities, safety, and every other part of life. But what about being thin? Is there an advantage, nay, a privilege, associated with being slim in our society? It seems that yes, there is. The thin, in thin privilege, is not about being supermodel skinny, but being at a weight that means you are not subjected to judgment and harassment from strangers. It means that you can go into almost any clothes shop and find something that will fit. You can eat a hamburger in public without people clearly judging your decision. You can wear something figure-hugging without people sniggering at you. Australian academic and body-positive advocate Jenny Lee says women are especially vulnerable to this type of rhetoric because women are still valued for their beauty first and are socialised accordingly. And this is a quote, "When I speak about thin privilege, I am talking about the advantages that thin people in Western culture experience, such as being assumed healthy and having a wide array of clothes available, as well as a body that aligns with dominant ideas of what is attractive," says Dr. Lee, who teaches gender and literary studies at Victoria University in Melbourne. It's time to acknowledge thin privilege the way the left has acknowledged white privilege, class privilege, or straight privilege. As a white middle-class person, albeit with working-class roots, it is worth noting here that I can't speak for all fat women, and I have barely been able to touch on the prejudice that fat people of colour experience. The conversation around thin privilege got a kickstart when US blogger Cora Harrington wrote a series of tweets explaining what it is and how people can benefit from it, even if they don't think of themselves as thin. So Cora Harrington has said, hey, you don't have to feel thin to have thin privilege. Thinness isn't a feeling. If other people perceive you as thin, you are thin. If you are able to walk into any clothing store and expect to see a wide range of options in your size, you are thin. No one groans or rolls their eyes when you have to sit next to me on a plane or a bus, she tweeted in July. In fact, no one commented on my body at all. The ability to move through life without people insisting you need to be smaller size, if you don't have to think about it, it's a privilege. Society has long determined that overweight people are not only flawed, but also fully responsible for their weight gain. That being fat is simply deemed to be a failure caused by nothing but greed and gluttony, a byword for laziness, being undisciplined, greedy, and unintelligent. I'm not even going to try and say this name. Noortje van Amsterdam from University Utrecht in the Netherlands says the social contract of people's bodies has declared that slim people, especially women, are the norm, while fat people are a deviant of that. There have been broad debate over exactly what thin privilege is, or whether that it exists. Some people who are naturally petite have rejected the term, saying that they too are forced to deal with a constant barrage of faux concern, including being told to eat something, or questioned questioned if they have an eating disorder. Another take on the label is that it's not so much that thin privilege exists, but that fat inconvenience does. A sort of social tax that bigger bodies have to pay, whether it is in the lack of choice in shops to buy clothes, or nasty stares and under-the-breath comments from airplane neighbours for taking up too much space. Whatever you want to call it, there's undoubtedly a series of hardships that bigger people face, most of which are socially constructed as a way to control and belittle them. If we can create it, then we can unmake it. So that is the article. So here's my take on it, like while you think. So my take on it is that I don't necessarily disagree that there is fat shaming that happens within our society.
No, of course
I don't disagree that doesn't happen. I am interested, however, that thin people are lumped together. There seems to be a big thing in here. One of the things that kept coming up in that article is the ability to walk into a clothing store and find a range of clothes that are in your size. Now, having worked in fashion retail for years, I struggled to find stuff in clothing stores quite often that fit me or fit me well.
But we're short as well.
We're short. Yeah. So does tall privilege exist?
It does.
Yeah. So but the thing is that my thing with it was that nobody walks necessarily into a clothing store and has a huge range of stuff. You can only buy stuff that's in your size. Like if they don't carry your size, they don't carry your size, regardless of the size you are. Like I understand that if you're heading into sizes that aren't carried by your general retail stores, which means that you are outside of what they consider to be their demographic, that it would be difficult, yes, to walk into a store and find clothing in your size. Absolutely. But I think that generally applies to everyone. If you're walking into a store that's outside of your demographic, you're going to struggle to find clothes that fit you.
And I thought clothing stores have gotten better with that. I mean, I don't know, because I can't.
Well, certainly, I certainly think so. I certainly think there are a lot of stores here now that cater for larger people, men and women. In terms of, if you are exceedingly tall, if you are bigger than what would be bigger than what would be kind of considered
really broad shoulders or something.
But you see, this is the other thing that we have to think about too, is it's not just being fat or thin, right? One of the things about clothing and that sort of stuff is they're made on models or for models to a pattern, right? And so if you don't fit that model, that pattern, then you're not going to, the clothes are not going to look good on you, regardless of whether you can do them up. So sort of doing up your clothes is only part. It's why we try things on.
I mean, clothing's catered to. I mean, they're producing clothes for the most common demographic. That's what they're producing.
Absolutely. For. So again, I was sort of in a bit of two minds about this article because funnily enough, I had a weirdly visceral reaction to this. Like it quite annoyed me whenever I read this.
Opinion
article.
Pieces are designed to do that.
Yeah, it certainly worked, and I'll come back to that a little bit later on because I sort of want to make a point about that. But I guess what I struggled with a little bit with this was actually how the whole thing ended. There was lots of things in there that I could sort of agree with.
Yeah. There's some things.
I think they downplay to a certain extent how some thin people or very short people are treated in society as well.
Yeah.
Like and
how unhealthy you can be thin.
Yep. Knowing somebody who's very short, for example, she struggles to find clothes anywhere because clothing stores just don't make clothes that, adult clothing stores. So she has to, at times shop in the kids section of clothing stores because it's the only stuff that'll fit her because she's short, right? Or, I have had friends or even myself, not now, but certainly whenever I was much thinner, you end up with people asking you all the time, if you're ill, or talking about the fact that you have an eating disorder.
Is that affecting? I think my problem with this article. Okay, so everyone agrees you shouldn't make fun of people who are overweight or fat.
No, because you don't know why they're overweight.
No, that's right, and there's so many circumstances.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit uncomfortable about the parallel between your weight and, for example, how that can be correlated with being white or black or male or female.
Straight or gay.
Implying that your weight can't be controlled. I mean, like, you cannot control your sexuality or your...
I think in some cases your weight can't be controlled. Like, in some reasons there are reasons why people
But I mean, are you
larger,
trying to tell me that...
But it's...
they were trying to make direct parallels with the civil rights movement.
You see,
are you kidding me?
That was what was a bit uncomfortable for me as well. I was kind of like, I'm not... Again... I don't want to come across that I don't think that there is a bias that exists or whatever, because there are always biases that exist. I'm not going to lie. If I was sitting next to a really large person who was spilling over to my seat in an airplane, I'd probably be uncomfortable about that. But I'd be no more uncomfortable about that than I would
a man manspreading
beside me, or about somebody sitting next to me with a baby, and I think,
babies are the worst.
But do you know what I mean? Like, it's not inherently because they're fat that I'm going, oh God, I've got to sit next to the fat person. It's because I feel that in some ways, it's not because I'm sitting there going, ooh, I don't want to sit next to them because they're fat. Like, the only way it would annoy me would be that if it started to encroach on my space. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think my problem, I think there's a lot in there that, being an opinion piece, they're trying to...
But I agree with you about that correlation between
I find that really
LGBT rights.
Yeah, for goodness sake.
The civil rights movement.
Because you can... there are people that have health issues that directly influence their weight. Of course there are.
Both ways.
You cannot...
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
both ways. Skinny and fat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And there are... But you cannot generalize why people are overweight. There are so many mitigating factors about why people have weight issues.
But you see, this is the wonderful thing, right? And this is what I always love about stuff like this, is that what you're asking people to do, right?
Is normalize being
fat. Is saying, no, is you're saying to people, all fat people are judged, right? Yeah. All fat people are judged by skinny people, even if they don't mean to. Which was the kind of that whole thing of, you don't have to be thin to have thin privilege. Yeah. All fat people are judged even if they don't mean to. All of us we're all lumped together, we're all one homogenous group. And then in the same article, you're also sitting there going, not all fat people are the same. Do you get what I mean? Like, you sort of can't have it both ways. If you
can't.
Yeah.
It's generalizing. These opinion pieces do this all the time. They generalize entire groups of people so that they can pit tribe A versus tribe B and make an issue that isn't necessarily as bad. Look, at the end of the day, I think weight issues are a hard one because, for example, for the first time in my life, I'm considered slightly overweight. Because of my beer gut.
Really?
Yes, yeah. And I've started running because of that. I've started, I've gone, enough is enough.
Yeah.
It was one of my, I'm done with this, and I'm sick of not being fit.
Yeah.
So, what concerns me is it's almost like it's trying to normalize for people who are overweight know they're overweight.
Yep.
They know it. Yep. And that lives with them throughout the day. Yep. It's a destroyer of self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely.
It dictates their lives in so many ways you wouldn't even think about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And for people who are thinner, don't even think about it. However, people who are overweight, they you either work to change that, or you don't, and that's fine. But those are things largely, in some ways, in your control.
Yep. So what interested me,
and I don't mean that I don't mean to be insensitive when I say that. They are, unless you have health issues and it's really hard. I'm not saying it's really hard. It's not really hard to lose weight.
Yeah.
It is.
But we also come back. What I found interesting, right, was that the article focuses largely on women.
Yeah.
And
which you have no control over.
No, but I also agree to a certain extent that women are probably overweight. Women are probably the hardest hit by being overweight.
Absolutely.
If you know what I mean,
Absolutely.
in terms of societal pressure and that sort of stuff.
And it's the media.
And contrary to what the article said, it's a relatively recent social phenomenon that thin women have been considered to be attractive. Like for most of our human history, larger women were considered attractive because it was a sign of wealth, all that sort of stuff. But it's interesting because it does. I think it does disproportionately affect women. I would argue that for men, being slightly overweight is less worrying to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
However, I would argue that for men, it's actually the opposite way round. I would argue that men being very skinny is the equivalent to women being very fat. Do you get what I mean? Like men, their ego quite often is tied up in the way they look and their musculature, that sort of stuff. When they're very, very skinny or whatever, I think there's sort of a parallel there, if you get what I mean.
I get comments like that all the time. That I'm not eating enough, or actually bother me.
Boys quite often, boast about size. I'm big, I can, lift this much, or I can do this much, or whatever. Like, so I think there's a weird correlation there, but it's kind of the other way around. I think men are slightly less concerned with being slightly overweight, if that kind of makes sense. But I just thought, I just thought that was an interesting kind of article to bring up.
It's a shame because they could have actually, sorry, I've forgotten the author's name.
I can't remember.
They could have actually made a really great point, but I feel like because it's an opinion piece, because they're trying to get clicks, they went too far. I think they could have made some. They do make some interesting points, but of course, I mean, I don't know whether it was stuff.
And that's why I said sort of at the beginning, I was kind of like, it doesn't necessarily mean that we disagree with like the content of the article, more the article or the way the article was written,
and tacking on the privilege thing on the end, and I think almost like riding on the coattails of things like LGBT and race and things like that, and trying to make it it's very
well. The bit that got me was the very last bit, which is whatever you want to call it. There is undoubtedly a series of hardships that bigger people face, most of which are socially constructed as a way to control and belittle them.
No, that's
crazy. So that's actually what I disagree with. Yes, I think the idea is socially constructed. Yes, all of that sort of stuff. I don't think it's purposely done to control and belittle people who are larger. No. I don't think that's true. Yeah. But that was the article. I knew it would get a good reaction. But I thought we would do. I thought it would be something interesting to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm patently aware that we are two people here
who've never
had massive issues with weight or whatever. Yeah. I could comment if you correlated it with height.
Yeah.
Because after all, I'm stunted. There are, I've always been called short or whatever else like that. So, and there are certainly opportunities that I've missed out on because I'm not tall enough or, those kinds of things. So I could slightly correlate it with that. But again, I'm also aware that I'm not somebody who's really struggled with weight for, most of my life.
No, I think, I mean, I'm not overweight to the point where it's
debilitating.
But it's also, so I can't relate to people who are far more overweight. But it does change the way you think. It does change the way you go about life, and it does kill your confidence. Yeah. Is the way to fixing that, or doing something about that, or making yourself feel better by just sitting there and going, there is a prejudice against me being fat or overweight? No, it is not.
No.
It's not, because that doesn't build confidence. Yes, it's really great outlet for being angry online, but it's not the way to go about it.
No.
And honestly, people think and talk about you far less than you think they do.
Again,
I know that's hard to say to someone who's feeling self-conscious about themselves, but people don't think or talk about you as much as
I did also like that they didn't actually define what fat was.
No, there was no.
Okay. So,
here we go.
second article. I'm quite excited about this one. So this one
worries me.
Yeah, I'm quite excited because I actually thought this was a joke to begin with, and it isn't a joke.
What's the website?
It's serious. This is New Zealand Herald. This is New Zealand Herald. So this was published in the New Zealand Herald. This is. I thought it was.
Who's the author?
I thought it was going to be. I can't say. It doesn't tell me at the top. It might tell me at the bottom.
Okay.
It's in the lifestyle section. So I already know you're going to enjoy this.
Okay.
I thought this was an Onion article to begin with. It's not. It's a legitimate article.
Okay. Can't even read the title.
The title of this article is
The anticipation is growing.
It's yes, that's right. You've got a dramatic pause.
Very exciting. Go on, I'm listening.
Man ends up in hospital after injecting semen into arm to cure back pain. So here we go. The bizarre way a man treated his back pain has been documented by doctors after he devised his very own unusual cure. An unidentified 33-year-old man baffled doctors when he walked into a Dublin hospital complaining of severe pain in his lower back. He was also sporting a red rash and swelling on his forearm. After performing an x-ray on his arm, it was discovered the man had been injecting his own arm with semen for 18 months in a bid to self.
18 months?
Yes. So not even.
You don't think
not
after the
even
first
like
month
once.
or two you think, wow, this isn't working. 18 a
yes,
year and a half.
A year and a half. He's injecting semen. But here's what I like, right?
Dublin, did you say?
Yes, but he's injecting semen into his arm for his back pain, all right? So here we go. So 18 months in a bid to self-treat his continuing...
Esoterica, right?
Yeah, that's right. Only the most newsworthy stories. Do self-treat his continuing back pain. However, his home medicine ideas causing him to develop cellulitis, a bacterial infection of the skin, and definitely won't help with his back pain.
Oh, you don't say.
The weird way of treating his back pain has been documented in the Irish Medical Journal as it's believed to be a world first. He had devised this cure, independent of any medical advice, no shit, Dr. Lisa Dunn wrote alongside images of his infected arm. Dr. Dunn revealed the Irishman had injected 1 monthly dose of semen for a year and a half using a hypodermic needle he bought online. Always the safest place to buy hypodermic needles. She added...
Like the dark web or something.
Yeah. She added that he had failed multiple attempts at injecting the body fluid in what she described as an innovative method to treat back pain. It was a mixture of his own botched procedure and the fact that the semen had leaked into his soft tissue that caused the nasty infection. But he'd only come into the emergency room when his back pain worsened after attempting to lift a heavy steel object.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
A bit of steel.
Yeah.
Why is he lifting up steel with back problems?
Despite seeking professional help at Adelaide and Meath Hospital, he left before doctors had a chance to remove the offending semen. The unique case is thought to be the first in the world, with Dr. Dunn writing that no studies of injecting semen into human bodies have ever been carried out. There are no cases of intravenous semen injection into humans found across the literature, she said. A search of more eclectic internet sites and forums found no other documentation of semen injection for back pain treatment or other uses. Her report on the unusual treatment was shared to demonstrate others on the dangers involved when someone untrained tries to perform medical procedures. Naturally, the unusual case has caught the attention of social media users who have been left stunned. People are strange, one person wrote on Twitter, while another person said, what the actual ...
3 dots.
Yeah.
So what 3-letter word could that be?
David, what I particularly loved about this, right, is I mean,
by the way, it's been recorded in a journal, so he's made it.
That's right,
He's
in
made
a
it.
medical journal.
That's more than many doctors could dream
but
of being in the journal.
Yeah, but here's what I love, right? Is this has now opened up a whole avenue of research, right? A whole avenue of research.
You watch, this will be a new homeopathy.
Yep, on the medical benefits of injecting yourself with monthly doses of semen into like your forearm.
Why is it
But what
like in here?
No, it was.
By the way, I'm pointing to my elbow.
I actually think it wasn't in it.
elbow.
I actually
It's
think
over
from
here.
the X-ray. I don't think it was in his forearm. I actually think it was like in his
There's an
bicep
X-ray.
somewhere. Yeah, they did an X-ray. This is how
It comes up on X-ray.
Yeah, this is how they found out he had been injecting semen into his arm. Like
What, via X-ray?
Yes.
Not an MRI or something?
No. Apparently X-ray. Apparently it showed up on an X-ray when they X-rayed his arm because he had like this infection in his arm, and of course he didn't. He wasn't like, hey, I've been like, he wasn't straight up with them and was like, you know.
So upper arm up.
I think it was like here somewhere. Like
showed up as like a massive something.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there you are. And so obviously,
so it didn't absorb into anything? The bone marrow.
Well, no, like apparently, like it leaked into his soft tissue. So, like, I assume that he wasn't like it says intravenously. So, I assume he was aiming for a vein or something, but he managed to leak it into his soft tissue, which is what caused massive like cellulitis. So, what's going to be awesome, right, is that he left before being treated for before having the semen removed from his arm. So, you know, the cellulitis will get so bad and he'll end up losing his arm and having to have his arm amputated, right? And then there'll
Is
be
this true?
Is what true?
Is he going to have his arm?
No. Because he's
imagine that. Why did you?
No, but he's got a severe. That's right. No, but he's got a severe bacterial infection, right? So the possibility is that, you know, it goes really nasty. He continues to do this. It goes really nasty because if he's done it for 18 months, he obviously believes there's some kind of like benefit to it, right? Like it's not like he was like, look, I've tried everything I've tried everything for the old back. Like, you know, the only thing I haven't tried is injecting semen into my arm. Like,
was he with a bunch of mates at the pub or something? And they were no, and they were like, he was like, man, I've got real back pain. I don't know what to do. Oh no, sorry, the accent's not quite right.
Yeah,
was it Dublin?
Yeah, okay. Let's
if I could do the locale of Ireland.
Let's hear your Dublin accent. Yeah. I love that.
I'm gonna go full Dairy Girls on you right now.
The anticipation.
I'm
is
very
building.
self-confident now.
Yeah.
Self-confident.
Self-confident.
I'm very self-confident.
The anticipation's building.
Yeah.
So what's that you said about your... So what's that you said about your arm there, John? So, what have you been injecting? What for back issues?
No, do you know what I love?
For your back.
Do you know what I love? Is he'll go back into the pub, right? If this is Jerry, he'll go back into the pub, and you know,
there'll be a band playing.
He'll be like, oh, you know, I've been in the doctor, and they'll say, oh, you know, you're back in there for your back, John. He'll be like, oh,
You got to do the accent. You're good at it.
No. He'll be like, oh, you know,
your brothers will be watching this.
Yeah. No, he'll be back in there, right? No, they'll be like, oh. You go, did you try the semen? He'll be like, of course I did. I've been injecting it into my arm for, you know, the last 18 months. And they said, no, it still hasn't cured your back, John. And we're like, no, he says, oh, you know, well, where are you injecting it? And then we'll be like, oh, into my arm. Like, oh, you fucking plonker. You know, why would you be injecting it into your arm for? Do
you think it was actually really innocuous? Do you think, man, I need some relief?
I'll just have a wank.
And he completely misinterpreted that. No, but I
mean, like this requires planning, right? So this is not just like you got shit-faced one night. Not that like not that I've ever been tempted to inject semen into myself.
No,
you know, whenever
but
I
he
was
went online
and bought a hypodermic needle, like got himself all set up, carried it. But
he would have had to have actually.
But again, as I said to you, like he sat there 18 months. So he clearly thought that there was some kind of medicinal benefit to injecting your arm with, you know, semen. Like, and I love how
and it helped. Well, do you think placebo was a...
Well, again...
Or maybe it actually helps.
Maybe
the pain and the humiliation of having semen in your upper arm distracts you from your back pain.
I mean, can you imagine bringing your girlfriend home, right? Like for the first time, and
Seamus, what's that swelling in your upper eye?
it's just like, she's coming home for you, and he's like, oh, look, Mary, I just have to take my medicine, and she's like, oh, what are you on medicine for? Oh, I'm on medicine for my back, Mary. It's terrible. It's a terrible pain in my back, Mary. And she'll be like, oh, what are you taking for your back, John? And you'll be like, oh,
From the people that bought you train spotting.
I'm having the monthly semen injections, Mary. Apparently it works. But what I love, right, is the doctor also turns around and is like, she's like, yes, there's no medical record of anybody trying to inject semen into themselves. And then what I love is not only that, because I could understand that, because I could understand people doing really dumb shit that there's no medical kind of proof that it works or whatever. I mean, the whole industry of homeopathy is based on it. I forgot people can see us. Cheers. But what do you call it? What I love is that she then also went, her work Google history now must be amazing. Because, she's like...
She had to research whether it had
Yeah, so
been
she's
done
like, oh, there's, searching the web. There's also no, weird internet posts of people being like, you should inject yourself with semen,
because there's some weird websites out there. I would have thouut there would have been someone who at least joked about it or made
this
it
is
up,
interesting, right? So it's not even like he went online and there was this forum of people who recommend injection recommend injecting semen into your arm as the cure all for back pain,
doesn't matter how many times you say that.
Also, how terrible is your back pain? If you're going, you know what, Mary, my only option is the semen. It's the semen in the arm every month, Mary. That's the way we're going. I'm not going to go to the doctor and get Tramadol. Semen's a much more effective, natural way of treating back pain. Or not, why am I having chronic back pain?
I'll cure it myself.
Yeah, I'll cure it myself in the semen.
There are people alive in this world who...
It's amazing, isn't it?
Who do things like that. It's incredible.
Oh, I literally laughed out loud, and it beat out my other article that I'd found for you this week, which was apparently asymmetrical genes are a thing. So apparently one skinny leg and one flare leg and stuff like that. Apparently it's the next fashion thing coming in. Asymmetrical genes. There you go.
Asymmetrical genes.
Yeah, you heard it.
I thought you were talking about DNA genes.
Oh, yeah, DNA genes. Yeah. No.
One
skinny leg.
Designer babies. Yeah.
Wow. No. That was the thing. You see, but I'm sorry. As soon as I saw the headline "Man injects own arm with semen to cure back pain," I was like, "That's
got it.
That's a winner.
Good
That's Esoterica fodder right there." Anthony's gonna love this.
Oh boy.
There you go. So that's our two articles for the week.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed sometimes smiling faces. On the camera, it's been a little bit weird. Although it's
very strange,
as you said,
because I feel like, do I talk to you or do I talk to them?
I am kind of liking this whole being able to see gesticulation though. I'm loving that.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for joining us in our first filmed podcast in our new studio, which will have more additions being added to.
This is just the start.
This is just the beginning.
It's a bit threatening.
That's right. So join us next week for a new segment that we're debuting next week on the podcast, which I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
So come along and join us for that. Remember, don't forget to give us some feedback. Things that you want to see, things you want to see us do, things you want to see more of, things you potentially want to see less of.
Whether it's a comment on YouTube or on Twitter or something like that.
Yes, where can they find us, Anthony? See, I'm going to test your memory.
Oh, here we go. I've got to know. Okay, so you can find us on... No, just kidding. So, Esoterica Pod at Twitter and Esoterica Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
Ah, there you go.
And there was no prompt. There's no screen behind you, by the way. There's no screen telling me. We don't have the budget.
Hang on.
We've blown the budget, by the way. We blew the budget on the paint for the wall.
There isn't. Oh, yeah, no, I got that. Thank you.
It's very wide.
You can tell.
Unnecessarily wide prompt.
Yeah. You can tell. You can tell there's no screen because I need my glasses to actually read it.
It's true.
Yeah.
True.
Staring into the very bright light. That's. Yeah. I feel like I'm on stage.
Yeah. James actually forgot that we were filming today, which is
did.
why he wore a white shirt. So I thought, in
Yes.
solidarity, I'd wear a white
Yeah.
shirt as well, because we thought we could blend into the wall.
Yeah.
And be floating heads.
We're gonna have to get some merch going so we can wear our own merch.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us. Remember to hit us up on those places, and we shall see you next week.
Thank you.